He's a very likeable fella, and do you know what I like about Stuart Lancaster? All the matches we go to all the time, we see him there. He's always in the crowd. He's always watching club rugby. He seems to have a very good relationship with the players and the clubs.
He does, and he's very open. He's very out there, and what I like about him, what I like when I work with him, there are no secrets. There's none of this kind of old school. I know something you don't know. Actually, he realises that everyone in the room is on the same team. He's on the same team as the clubs. They're on the same team as him. He wants them to be happy, so they breed happy, you know, sort of functioning players and motivated players. And he knows his supply comes from there, so he treats them well. And everyone in the room has all the information. If you want something, if you want to know something, you ask him and he'll tell you. He pulls no punches, but that openness sort of earns him instant respect.
Do you remember the day we went to Twickenham for the big game 6 and they wouldn't let us film in the England dressing room? And we were a bit grumpy about it. We actually thought, no, that's quite a good thing. He wants to keep it a special place where you earn the right to peek in through the door.
Yeah, very much so. And I think one of the things that he's done since inheriting the England team as the coach is get back to those values of what it means to wear that white shirt of England. Brought in some older players to talk to the new generation and try and instill that. You would have thought that would have been a bare minimum for international players, but you know, it's getting England back to their roots and really making sure that pride and that passion is a bare minimum.
Yeah. So what about this group of players he's got then? Because actually there's not a lot of games between now and when the World Cup kicks off in England. Who's going to be in the side? Who's out? Has he got enough time now through this Six Nations, the next Six Nations, to mould an England team?
Well, he's got 20 games left before the World Cup, and probably that's not enough to start experimenting, but he does need to find other players. And if we look at who's in and who's out, the big headline for me of this EPS squad was Toby Flood announcing he's going to France. In comes George Ford. George Ford has been outstanding. You know, for Bath this season. I think he's there on merit along with Stephen Myler, who's pushing hard, and he'll now be the guy who's really pushing, you know, Farrell. The other thing, it's a tick box exercise. There's no real big changes. He had to include all these injured players because if he wants to take them to New Zealand, they have to be in the EPS squad as well. And there we see the stats of George Ford. I mean, Flats, you know, you've seen a lot of him at Bath. Really impressive, and he deserves his place in the squad.
He really does, and I think it's a good bet he'll start a game in this Six Nations, be it Scotland away or whatever, which would be a very tough game. But while I don't necessarily think he'll start the first game, I think he will get some game time in the Six Nations. It's getting to that point where if you want him to be, you know, reasonably experienced come World Cup time, and I think Stuart Lancaster will, game time's on the horizon.
So, Lawrence, you're putting together a team. First game against France in Paris.
Yeah.
Who do you pick?
Well, it's not for the faint-hearted. You listen to Stuart Lancaster, he talked about injuries right at the top of that interview. If we look up here, you've got Corbizero, Wilson, Foden, Wade, Croft, Yard. I mean, injury, huge. Lions, British Lions, that's over 60 caps, along with Flood, who's gone. That's nearly 100 caps injured or not available. So I've gone with a fairly settled pack. Vunipola comes in for Corbizero, Hartley and Cole. He's my key man for England this season, you know, and how their set piece goes. I don't see any changes here. Rob Shaw leading the side. Be very interested to find out from the audience whether they agree or disagree. Problems at scrum half. The form of those guys is yo-yoing. Beginning of the season, you'd have said Dixon from Northampton. Kerr's coming back into form, but I still think if it was World Cup final tomorrow, this is the guy you'd want at the helm, and his form is getting better. He won't risk, as David said, George Ford in the first game away in Paris. So I think here, again, this is a big selection problem for me. All the guys in the squad are 12s. Someone's got to play outside centre. I think this man's time has come. He's had a little bit of game time in that position, so I think he'll start there. And for me, Chris Ashton loses his place. I don't know how people feel about that, but I don't feel his defence is good enough. I don't think Stuart Lancaster will do that, but this for me is the player to watch for England in the Six Nations. I think we saw what he did up at Leicester. He'll be there. Alex Goode's form has been noted, but Mike Brown deserves to start at fullback. And this could be a bit of a wild card for me, with Foden out injured, with Yard and Wade there, Johnny May.
There's a Saracens fella behind there who's ready to rip your head off. I'll just let you know. You're going to get the opinion now in a minute of everyone. But one of the big talking points has been Danny Cipriani. Now, obviously, he isn't going to feature this time out. A lot of people want to know why has he not been selected? Has he still got a chance? Well, we asked Stuart Lancaster that very question.
How close did Danny Cipriani come into your thinking ahead of this selection?
It's certainly improved. There's no doubt about it. You know, I've went to see him, as you know, and had a good chat with him yesterday. And again, when you're looking at selection, all the component pieces for me are the things I assess. So defence, game management, kicking game, attack, leadership, temperament, etc., etc. And I think he's shown a good improvement in all those areas. He hasn't quite done enough to get into the senior squad. I wanted to use the Saxons as an opportunity for younger players, so Henry Slade really coming in there, and Freddie. And I thought also, and I think Steve Diamond agrees, leaving it at Sale for the time being is the best thing, but I left him with a positive message saying, listen, you know, your goal has to be the New Zealand tour and strive towards that. But he's also got some good players around him who, in his 5 position, who play him well also, and that's where we've got to select it.